Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube account. Now, this time we're coming back and we have some direction on what we're going to create. So, I've had this thought for a while where I want to create a series where I take an app from nothing at all to a completely live product, all by vibe coding. Now, if you don't know me, I'm a developer. I post development content on Instagram and TikTok, on Shorts as well, but then I'm also building software products every single day. I want to bring my knowledge, as well as my love for building stuff, and my passion for vibe coding into a series where we build these apps completely vibe coded, maybe with a little bit of manual development here and there. But the goal is to show you how to build an app completely vibe coded, following the best practices, making sure that everything works as it should, and make sure that everything is secure. The end goal is to give you confidence and direction with building your own apps completely vibe coded. So without further ado, let's spin up an app. All right. Let's kick things off. So the app that we're going to use to build this is going to be Cursor, because I think that it is the most user-friendly and all-round just a great developer experience. So we're going to use mostly the agent window, I think. And if we ever need to jump in and look at code, we'll jump into the normal editor window. But to get started, let's jump in. All right, I've created the app folder. I've just called it a Vibe app, as you can see on the screen here. And we're going to kick it off with figuring out what we want our tech stack to be. Now, I already know what I want this to be, but I'm going to read it out loud, and then as it's generating the app, we can go over what I've chosen and why I chose it. So I'm going to use the microphone to prompt it so that we can get through it faster and you guys can hear what I'm saying. Yeah, so this isn't necessarily a hard task, but we want it done right. So we're going to use the best model that is available at our disposal. And as of yesterday, that is 4.8. So we'll go with 4.8. And let's prompt this app. Let's generate a brand new Next.js app. We need to be using the following technology: Next.js, Tailwind CSS for styling. We need to use TRPC for type safe backend. I want to use Prisma for the schema. I would like to use Zod for the types and validation throughout the routers. And then we will also use Keasly, which will be used to interact with our database via our models. For authentication, I want to use BetterAuth, and for the database, we will need a Supabase client. Now, the main reason that I've gone for all of these things is because I want it to have tight guardrails, which will happen with Zod and Prisma. These make it easy to keep our database in sync with our code base. Now, if you're vibe coding, that might not make a lot of sense yet, but that is totally okay. We're putting the guardrails in place for the agent, so when they're building, they will know what to do. I've also gone with Supabase because it is probably the most widely used piece of database software. It's open source, which is always good. And it also comes with a bunch of things out of the box. We can store our data there. We could use Supabase Auth if we wanted to, which I might actually change that. We can store images there. We can store videos there. We can write functions directly in Supabase, which is a pretty cool functionality, but I'm not sure how much we will use that. The moral of the story is that this is a super popular tech stack, and that's what we want. We want it to be nice and simple. We want it to be widely used, and we want it to be easy to work with. So, right, we'll just use Supabase Auth. Supabase Auth, it'll be easier. And we'll just let it rip, and we'll come back in a minute. So as this is being generated, we're probably going to be asked a few questions. So I'm going to make sure that I record this so you see everything that is done to get this live. Now, this is just it asking for permission to start the app, which of course we wanted to do, so we'll give it permission. And here you can see that it's using something called Context 7. Now, this is an MCP that I have added. I would recommend adding it because it's a documents website, a docs website, which has a ton of popular documentation like Stripe and a bunch of others set up in a way that an LLM can read it. So you've always got up-to-date documentation for your LLM, so it's not reading out-of-date Stripe docs and creating APIs in your project that don't even exist. Yes, same thing. We want this. We've told it to do that already, so click yes. I'm just going to allow this because it's just us asking silly stuff over and over. This isn't the typical stack that I build with now. We use a variation of this, but it's a lot more involved because we generally have multiple apps per project. But this is something that I have built and shipped apps with that have got users and customers. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with this stack. And to be honest, if I was to go back to working by myself and not in a team, this would probably be what I would go for, because it is simple and easy to get going. And it doesn't require a lot of knowledge, specifically on the back end, to maintain and deploy this stuff. So just while that's doing that, we can pop out this panel up here, which will show us our app being created. So we're going to go through this a little bit more in depth in the actual editor window, and I'm just going to show you basically what each part of the code base is and what it means. Don't really worry about this. I just want to show you that you can see the code from within Cursor. I don't really use this to code because I just find this a bit claustrophobic, but we will use the actual editor to inspect our code after this is finished generating. All right, that took way longer than expected, but it is done now. The only thing that won't work, of course, is we won't be able to connect to a DB because I haven't set one up and added the string to the environment yet. But what we can do is have a quick look at the code. Now, the easiest way to do this is Control-Shift-P, open editor window, and then we have a proper old Cursor window. And we want to open Vibe app, and we can see here that we've got our complete code base ready to go. Now, we've got an env example, which will just tell us what we need to add. Mainly, we just need to set up Supabase and add the URLs here. But if you want to do a quick rundown of what's in here, Prisma, this is where we'll manage our schema. This is essentially what will keep our code base and our database tied together. So whenever we want to add a table like blog post, we would write that here, we would run a command, and it would push that to Supabase. We never go to Supabase and manually use the UI to create this stuff. We do it all from here, so then it keeps our code base and our database locked together. Further through, if we just jump down here, in our source folders where everything's going to happen, we've got the traditional API routes. Now we're wrapping this with the TRPC stuff so that this is like a catch-all route, and we'll write our APIs elsewhere. You'll never have to look at this file again. Auth, this is where it's written all of the Supabase stuff for signing in and signing out. Dashboard, obviously this is just front-end UI. It's written a query here and given us some basics UI. So we've got some sort of profile editor. I don't know, didn't ask it to do that. We've got our login form. We've got the page for the login form, some root variables for our CSS. We will come back here later and add our colors for different color modes if we want to do that, or just our different variables that we want to reference. Layout, you shouldn't really have to touch this either. It's already set up so that the whole app has access to the TRBC React provider. This means that throughout every page throughout our app will have access to this context and easily be able to write our DB queries, mutations, all that kind of stuff. This is just our root page. Yep. Just looks like it details the stack. Some more components. We've got our Supabase library for connecting to Supabase. We've got a middleware file for keeping the session and stuff up to date. We've got this server file, something to do with server components. I actually haven't seen that before. We've got another server file with our Postgres pool connections, our generated Keasley types. Now, you don't need to worry about this file really either. This is generated from our Prisma schema, so for now, just ignore that. Now, this is where the brains of the application will live. Routers are essentially an API route in TRPC. So it's also written as a basic one for our user. We won't do it like this. This kind of stuff won't be here. This won't be here, just to keep it all neat and segregated. But this is the general way that this works. Then we've got our TRPC context. This is the core file of the TRPC routers. So all we do here is export every router so that it's available in the app. Then we just got our middlewares configured here, like I just talked about, the public and protected procedures. More files down here just to set up the React TANSTACK query. You won't need to look at these either. These are all set and forget. Then there's this proxy, which I think used to be Next Middleware. So let's go ahead and run our app. and we'll go to the localhost URL. But I can see that we already have errors, so we are having issues running the app. And it's the app page TS6. Alright, okay, it's because it's trying to query something that doesn't exist, so we'll just comment this stuff out for now. And just like that, we have our app. Alright, that's going to be it for the first episode. On the next episode, we'll come back, get these actually wired up to a database, and we'll start off with getting user accounts created, and then from there we'll go into building out the actual app. We need to come up with the idea as well, so if you have an idea, comment it on this video.